Tori, where are you calling in from today?
I am calling in from the great state of Texas, Dallas. We are experiencing true Texas spring. One day it's 80 and great, and the next day it's 60 and snowing. So never snow. We had a windstorm or dust storm yesterday, so not real sure what we've got going on. So
You never
it's
know what's going to
spring.
come
It's
next.
spring. It's officially the first day of spring, so that's not shocking.
Oh, today is? That's right, isn't it?
It is,
Well,
yeah.
happy spring, everyone. Brian, where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
That's
Where
right. You're a Midwestern friend. How's the weather up by you?
it's similar to Torrey in Texas, but a lot colder. We get swings from 70 degrees. So Saturday it was 70 degrees out, and then Sunday it snowed 3 inches.
Yeah, that's the same for us in the mountains of Pennsylvania. So it's this time of year where you just never know what you're going to get. And I hope everyone out there in the audience is starting to see the spring arrive. And if you're in kind of the Florida or California states, then you just are lucky all year round. And we're happy to have you here as well. So we're super excited to get kicked off here today. And we're going to really get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about technology. We're going to talk about our three platforms and how honestly, and it's a tough thing to be able to say something is seamless these days when it comes to integrations, but as close as you can get with our three platforms working together to really make your lives as advisors and firms easier, more scalable, and more relatable, maybe most importantly to your clients about really important topics like tax, planning, and also risk. So, three very important things that you're all working on. And our platforms are making that easier for you every single day. And we're going to get into that in just a second. So, just a quick housekeeping. We love questions. So, we will leave time for questions at the end. And also, we'll be recording today. So, if you miss it or you have colleagues who maybe could benefit from learning more about these platforms, we will have a recording for you. Again, welcome and thank you so much, everyone, for letting us know that you can hear us okay. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off and share my screen. So if one of you lovely folks could let me know when you can see my screen, Brian and Tori. There we go. All right. How about the
Look-
slideshow?
There
Yep.
you go.
Excellent. So let's get this thing kicked off. I am Allison Susko, Vice President of Community over at AssetMap. I've been here for 8 years, coming up in just a couple of months, and I focus a lot on working with our great partners like Holistiplan and Nitrogen. I work with a lot of our broker-dealer companies and talk a lot to advisors such as yourselves about what's beneficial with their technology and how we can keep improving it. And I'm super excited to be here today to talk about two of my favorite integrations with AssetMap. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Tori to introduce herself as well.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tori Hoppy, Head of Partnerships over here at Holistiplan. I have been with the Holistiplan team now for 3 years, which it sounds crazy to say out loud. It goes by in a blink of an eye. Uh, I couldn't be more excited to be presenting with two of my favorite tech companies, one of my former home and employer, and the other just a really great partner in the industry. Our tech Again, I think our industry is really great at saying, we integrate together and we make your life easier, when in reality, it really doesn't make your life easier. But I love to talk about these three platforms because the reality is we really do help. And it may not be a direct integration, but it's also like the Lincoln logs of building for your tech stack. So super excited to be here. I will let Brian introduce himself. So Brian, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Tori. Hello, everyone. Brian Sasaki over here at Nitrogen. I am the Managing Director of Advisor Solutions. So I head up our advisor distribution team here at Nitrogen. Been here for a little over 3 years and also very excited to present with Allison and Tori, who I've known for many, many years from our previous roles as we've all been in the industry much longer than we've been at our current companies.
That's true. We've been around for a while, and that's a great segue into our next slide. So we won't spend too much time kind of leading up to what we actually are doing together, but I definitely think it's important to talk about where things have come. So this was one of the first Michael Kitces slides I could find, and I joke around that I actually found this on Pinterest, which is really funny. I'm not sure if this is the oldest one. I've had some folks tell me that there's a couple more that might have been before this one, but what this does is it shows us, gosh, things have changed, right? So I see some things over on the left-hand side. I see Asset Map's old logo. I see Nitrogen used to be called Riskalyze, and Holistiplan wasn't even on this map at this point, I don't think. So it's really showing us that things are changing all the time. It gives you all as advisors and firms the ability to work with a multitude of companies that are solving problems you might have within your own practices. Are you looking to simplify the tax conversation? Are you looking to scale with more clients? Do you really need to tackle that risk conversation that you're not having? There are so many things that are now available to you. How do you think through even picking the right ones? And, what are you considering when you're making these decisions? Tori, have you seen any best practices on how advisors are kind of taking this great opportunity of all these technologies and deciding what's best for them?
Yeah, I think there's the map on the left made it really easy. There wasn't a lot of choice. So it made it really easy for the advisor to pick and choose the tech because there wasn't all of these different avenues for you to now choose from. And then the map on the right, I'm sure people are looking at it with their head spinning. Not only are there new categories, but there's so much more to choose from in each category. So a lot of times what advisors are looking for when they are building their tech stacks is, how does this relate to my business? My business isn't going to be the same as Allison's business or Brian's business. My clientele are also very different, right? Advisors have really honed in on niche or niche, however we could debate that for a while if we wanted to, but they're really leaning into like their niche markets. They're leaning into self-identifying as an advisor. Are you self-identifying as an advisor that looks more on the tactical side of things with, tax planning, for example? So being able to self-identify what kind of practice you want to run and who you are as an advisor helps you create that tech stack for you. And then, it's it's hard, but you got to do the due diligence of the tech companies. How do you envision them working together in your book of business to being successful? Do you want technology that you, the advisor, are the only ones touching, or do you want that technology to go one step past you to interact with your client? How does that interaction look like? Is that just a report like the three of us create? Is it, a single sign-on that the client is actively in the tech itself? So you've got to kind of decide like what it is. But at the end of the day, I was a huge choose your own adventure book lover when I was little. And that's kind of what you're doing here when you're choosing your technology on the right. You're kind of choosing your own adventure and choosing the tech that really works for your business.
I agree. And Brian, any final thoughts on this before we get into it?
I would just add, thinking back to 2017, when I think Allison, you and I were both selling financial planning software, going head to head against each other,
Yeah.
and looking at like that landscape today, dozens of planning softwares, and then even subcategories of specialty planning softwares.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It's a lot, and to fit it all together like a puzzle and know what these pieces do and how they talk to each other, it's a lot to dig in.
I agree. And that's exactly right. And, there's another piece that, we think about a lot, which is, maybe you're not the biggest tax expert in the world, but you really want to be able to implement that conversation into your meetings with your clients. Systems like Holistiplan are going to be able to support you in making sure you know exactly what to focus on and not get outside of your wheelhouse on those kind of more niche conversations. So I tend to go with niche, but, hey, again, that's up for debate. Tech is important for three reasons. We all know this client base is changing. Clients are younger, they're getting family members involved. I just recently met with my dad and his advisor, and that was the first time in my many decades of being around. And it was really interesting. And I was definitely curious to see what his advisor had as far as tech options and what he was utilizing. And expectations are different. We talked about the map, right? So younger clients are expecting availability of tech use, whether that be for themselves or for if they're beneficiaries, on their parents' accounts. And, getting the entire family involved, we think also is super important. We talk about that a lot at Asset Map. Do you have that kind of, we call it non-CFO spouse that is a little bit checked out in the meetings and really doesn't feel that connection to the financial kind of part of their family, making it a little bit more easy to run through, client friendly in the reports, can really get that those other family members involved as well, which is of course always great for business. So what made us go and work together as three companies, and why? What are we trying to accomplish? Asset Map is always trying to make the complex simple, and I think these two companies are doing that as well. Again, taking very complex topics and making them digestible for the client in the reports and the meetings, and also allowing the advisor to tackle these things without it taking over their life, because things can get out of hand quickly. So all of these companies are doing just that. So that's kind of the basis for it. Asset Map and Holistiplan have just been together as integration partners for about a year. I think it came out just about spring or summer last year, and it has been our fastest growing integration ever. I think it's now in top 2 or 3 of implemented technologies that we have partnerships with. And the reason for that is, you're going to see in a few minutes, it's simple. You're going to be able to get that Holistiplan information right up on the Asset Map report to be able to talk about those important tax figures in your meeting without having to fumble around to different platforms. And the same thing goes with Nitrogen and Asset Map. Nitrogen has been on the Asset Map platform since before I started, so coming up on a decade, and it is our most adopted integration. And when I tell you we've won awards with these two together, it is, I've had quotes from advisors using both saying, these are the only two in my tech stack that I will even put in front of a client. I get these two up in a meeting and we're ready to rock and roll. So again, it's the simplicity, it's the nice connection without any kind of overlap or annoying pieces that you have to fix up. The three of these just sing together so nicely, and we're super excited to show you. Leverage all three solutions on one screen. So again, layer perfectly Asset Map, Holistiplan, and Nitrogen. You're going to see that here in a second. Take advantage of the risk score and key tax facts right in your meeting tool. And when I say meeting tool, in this case, I mean Asset Map. And, all three of us are going to talk briefly about our own solutions for just about 5-10 minutes each before we show you live the integration and how it works. But the point of it is, a lot of times integrations can kind of step all over each other. So I'm sure some of that has happened to you all, and here on the screen or here at the call, is you don't want to add certain ones together, or else you might have overlapping data. You might have an issue with an extra client being added in. Nobody really wants to deal too much with that, because then you're cleaning things up. In this case, you're able to seamlessly use all three without that kind of competing data or overlapping information. And I don't know really of many others that you can get three to work together that seamlessly. So it's pretty exciting stuff, and offer a really seamless deliverable as well. So I'm actually going to stop sharing briefly and get this over to Brian to share his screen to talk to a few minutes about Nitrogen, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Brian.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep, looks great.
So, Nitrogen platform shows very well in the Asset Map system. What I'm going to do for you guys today is I'm going to dive a little bit more into the Nitrogen system and show you a little bit more behind the scenes of what is actually in the Nitrogen platform and what we are doing. For those of you that don't know the name Nitrogen, we did rebrand about 2 years ago. We spent the first 12 years of our existence being called Riskalyze, and our claim to fame was we came up with the risk number. So we wanted to come up with a different way to measure a person's risk tolerance. Instead of putting people into 5 buckets and saying, you're an aggressive investor, you're moderate conservative, which doesn't mean a whole lot to the investor. What we've done is we came up with a way to put this on a numerical scale. So it goes from 1 to 99, and it looks like a speed sign. And what you'll see in the Nitrogen platform is we try to use a lot of concepts that hit home and make sense to people. So a lot of advisors, when they're using this in Nitrogen or an Asset Map, they're saying like, this is how fast as an investor you want to be driving. The reason that we rebranded to the name Nitrogen was we were always getting categorized as like we only do risk, like we're measuring risk tolerance is what we do. When we look at the platform today and how most advisors use it is it becomes one of their main deliverables and one of their main proposals tools to help educate clients and prospects about what they have today. And again, we're looking at, not only the risk number of their current portfolio, and what we're able to point out is, hey, you don't want to drive faster than 61 going down the highway when it comes to your investments. Now you're actually going 82 miles per hour. You're going a lot faster than you want to be going. The other concept we use heavily in our system, we call it the risk-realized GPA. And again, that's a simple concept that a lot of people will grasp onto. Instead of showing, efficiency frontier graphs, or, we're trying to explain Sharpe ratios or Sorrentino ratios, that is an efficiency metric where we're able to say, okay, for the risk that we're taking, how much reward are we getting? And is that reward sufficient enough for the amount of risk that we're taking? And what we're aiming to do is help educate an investor and help them understand if what they have for investment is a good fit for them or not a good fit. And in this case, 3.4 GPA, driving 21 miles faster than they want to be going, we would then come up with a retirement map and then a proposal, which would allow them to see, like, this is where we think you should be, and this is what you should have. And when we map this on our retirement maps, which is, again, I would, coming back to a few slides ago, what Allison mentioned, like the emergence of specialty planning software, kind of like the bucket Holistiplan is. I would bucket this as a light interactive planning tool. Not going to replace full planning software, but most advisors will say that they don't have financial plans for every client. It's it's a hard thing to scale. This is meant to be a 3 to 5 interactive planning tool that helps you showcase the needs, like how much risk should someone have, or are we going to be tracking toward their retirement goals? Now, this wouldn't be a fintech webinar if we didn't get the chance to talk about AI. Um, One of the most important things as we talk about data moving back and forth between systems is getting the data in. One thing we just rolled out is the Nitrogen AI statement capture tool, which is using AI where you can drag and drop clients still send us paper PDFs or email us PDFs of their portfolios. And what we're able to do here is we're able to drag and drop those PDF statements into the Nitrogen AI tool, and the AI tool is going to read the statement and input the data into the Nitrogen platform so that we can see the accounts that they have, the holdings, the weightings of those accounts, of those holdings in the accounts. And it's going to be the easy step to get the data to collect the data. And once we have it, then able to then push this data right into systems like Asset Map to display into their deliverables. I'll touch on a couple more things here. One of the things that I would say is that makes Nitrogen unique is at its core, we use 12 different data feeds. So there's deep level analysis looking at individual holdings, every stock, mutual fund, ETF that's out there on the US traded exchanges. And a lot of systems what makes us different is a lot of systems will resort to using asset classes. And they'll say, everything in this asset class is the same investment. We're going to go one layer deeper and say that's not always the case. Like, just because something is an individual stock doesn't necessarily mean it should be in the high risk, high 90s risk score. Certain equities like Costco, P&G, McDonald's, based on 21 years of daily price history, they're not that volatile. And we score them in the low to or the mid to high 60s. And what you're seeing in the platform is we're doing these, deep level of analytics, but it presents back to the client in a very concise manner. So here's an example deliverable that I would show to a prospect where I'm showing them, 4-page report. Here is your risk number. You scored a 60. And then I'm making the side by side. When we analyzed your portfolio, we actually saw that you were going 76. You're doing it well, 3.9 GPA. What I'm proposing, and in this case, I'm actually using an Allianz annuity to offset some of the risk, is we're moving 30% over to this Allianz annuity, index advantage annuity, to bring down that risk score, but at the same time, we're bringing up the GPA. And then where I would really drive this home in a deliverable is I would use our stress test to be able to explain what it means to be going 55 versus 76 in life events that these people have most likely lived through. If a 2008 bear market were to happen again, you're going 76, you lose 373. If we were only going 55, you would be able to save yourself about $120,000. So overall, like the emergence of nitrogen and the name change, we do emphasis a lot on risk. Um, but when we look at ourselves as one of the main deliverables and proposals that an advisor will use, and an easy way to collect this data into the system that we can then use to push into other systems like Asset Map. And with that, I am going to send it back to Allison so then Tori can talk about Holistiplan.
Super. All right. So thank you so much, Brian. And we did get a couple of questions that came in. So we'll tackle them here in a few minutes after we get to it some more about Holistiplan. Tori, you're up. You're on mute.
Oh, I haven't done that in a long time. Man. So Holistiplan is a tax planning solution software that kind of fits in with that tactical side of planning, right? So we look at the client's tax returns to equate what they could be doing better for their tax planning needs. So just a quick about us. Our mission is to enable advisors to deliver richer financial planning to even more clients. So we are built for the mass affluent. Everyone deserves tax planning. I always joke that it is as simple as your paper boy has a tax return. Now he may or may not need tax planning, depending on how large his paper route is. But as that paper boy grows up and older and becomes, a grown adult and does adult activity like jobs, they're going to need tax planning advice, right? So you, the advisor, are going to start helping everyone in your books of business with their tax planning. We're loved by over 7,000 firms. We have been rated the #1 tax planning software on the T3 for now 5 years in a row. We just officially got the announcement last week for 2025. So I do get to update this slide, which is also great. We also just got the Kitsy's report out today or yesterday. That also gave us the #1 tax planning software again for this year. And then we were the FinTech competition winner in 2019. That's where we really got our start. Our two co-founders were NAFTA advisors. So kind of tax nerds, if I must say out loud. They saw a need and a want for other advisors to understand tax planning and went and entered into the FinTech competition for XYPN that year and won it. And we have been off to the races since. Tax planning has become big table stakes now with your clients. I think this is the most insane stat I could ever pull. Americans spend more on taxes than they do on food, clothing, and housing combined. And 92% of clients expect tax planning, but only 25% of them are actually receiving it. So your clients are actively looking for tax planning advice or tax planning needs and wants, but they're not getting it. And it's a combination of a few things. They have very much gone to their tax preparers, so their CPAs of the world, to kind of get this information. And they are only playing defense. They are filing the returns, making sure that they get their returns in on time, telling them what they owe or do not owe, and then moving on. They don't give a rundown of what the return did for the client, how they could benefit, make any changes, any of that. They're just honestly playing defense. So the clients are now looking to their advisors to get some sort of help because you guys have been so helpful in their financial planning needs that now they're actually looking for that tax planning need as well. So what we do is we take your client's tax report, we load it up into our system, and in about 45 seconds, our OCR technology scans that huge document that you'll put in and creates this tax report that you can see. I've taken some snippets of what it will create for you. It takes that complex tax return and transforms it into just a very clear, actionable tax planning opportunities so you can go over with the client. It simplifies all that data for you so you and the client have small digestible items to go through. It allows you to tailor this report. If you want to firm brand it, you're able to do that. And then it gives you key figures, tax brackets, and Medicare Part B and D premiums, which again is really, really big for our pre-retiree and retiree clients, to understand kind of where they fall. But this report is kind of the bread and butter of the product. It allows you to really jump off and really start that tax planning conversation with your client. Once you have that conversation, that on the bottom of that tax report there's these observations, right? So the observations are going to tell you kind of things that the client can take advantage of for the next tax planning season. You're going to go into the scenario analysis and build out those options for them to look through. So examples of a scenario that you can build is the client is getting married. What does it look like filing separate versus joint? They're having a baby. How does filing the child tax credit change the way the taxes are for them? You could also do complex items like Roth conversions and QCDs. We have great explainers for Roth, DAFs, and QCDs in the system for you. So if a client doesn't quite understand what those items do or how it works, you're able to build out those explainers to them and have that in-depth tax planning conversation with them. It minimizes tax liabilities with precise projections and calculations, and it models effective tax changes and impacts of incremental income. And then one other great item on the scenario analysis: if you or your client lives in a state with state income taxes, you actually have a state modeling section in there to be able to show them exactly what it would do for their state that they live in. We only upload and can read individual federal returns, but this allows you to do some state planning for the client. And we know that you aren't working with just clients in your community, you're working with advisors all over. I live in Texas, but my advisor actually lives in North Carolina. So we're able to have in-depth conversations about my tax planning needs because she is able to use platforms like this. And certainly last but not least is our insurance risk management tool. So we've really kind of staked our flag in the tax planning world and really built a moat around that. And then our clients have come to us with some other requests on things that they would love to have the platform analyze. So now we have property and casualty. We allow the advisor to upload the home, auto, and umbrella declaration pages to give them a breakdown exactly kind of how the tax report works on what pitfalls that those three items could have. So make sure that it aligns with the client's planning and personal insurance. Adjustable rebuilding estimates for home. So a big gap that we see, especially on the home insurance side of things, is the client's home insurance is for the value of the loan of the home. It's not the actual rebuilding cost of that house. So let's say my home, for example, we have a loan out for $200,000, but the actual rebuild cost of my home would be over $1 million. So there's a huge gap there. If the client had decided to rebuild the home, they're not going to actually have enough funds to rebuild the home as is. And then we have these really great insurance agent letters. We also have the letter on the tax planning side of things for the CPAs that you can kind of create really simple and fast to show them, again, what you're doing on the tax planning side and then where the pitfalls are on their property and casualty, so they can go to their insurance provider or their CPAs to kind of show them what is going on the planning side.
Wow. Can you imagine how many people lately, with everything that's gone on in California and with tornadoes and just like all the, things that people come up against when it comes to insurance and what they have to do to rebuild a home? That is something I've never thought about. And I'm sure the amounts can vary, honestly, extremely drastically. So that is a great piece.
And the other piece that they always find too is the umbrella policies. Everyone kind of gets a blanket $1 million umbrella policy, but if something were to happen, and your client could be personally sued, they can actually come after their financial portfolio.
Wow.
And so if you're not actually thinking about that piece in the insurance part of it, maybe the insurance provider just doesn't know this accounts exist, you're actually leaving that up in liability for the client.
Wow, thank you for covering that. That's incredible. We're going to talk about Asset Map for a few minutes, and we're going to jump into Asset Map and see how all three of these platforms are working together in order for you to provide a super engaging experience for your clients, whether it be printed or in person or over the web, and being able to discuss all of these important topics in one place. So Asset Map, similar to Holistiplan, was born out of a financial advisor's practice. Our CEO, Adam Holt, was a longtime financial advisor and used one of the most popular financial planning tools out there that's been around for a really long time, and really just found not that his financial planning tool wasn't valuable, but he found it was really hard to scale. His clients weren't super thrilled with the very complex, long reports with charts and graphs that essentially just went over their head. I think sometimes as an industry, we get spoiled because we're so used to the complex that goes into making sure your clients are on track for their goals. But, even some of the most sophisticated, high net worth, super high value clients, they don't necessarily want to read through an 80-page document. And he found that with his own high net worth clients at his firm. And he created Asset Map as a visualization to really level set during a meeting, find out what people had without it being overwhelming or too time consuming, and also just making sure that the client understood that he knew exactly what was going on, and also how he was trying to help them get the whole family involved. And also, not every family looks the same. So when Tori said, in the beginning, not every advisory firm looks the same goes when you're working with all different types of clients. So Asset Map was really created to do financial planning at scale in a very conversational way. You can imagine, if you see that visualization, what we're really popular for over on the left is, you're going to pop up an Asset Map report with the client and the spouse and all the kids that are involved in the family, grandma maybe who's helping out with college expenses, any trusts or business interests. Imagine being able to pop up a business and talk about what the plan is for that in the future. What tends to happen is clients or prospects are going to see this and say, well, you're darn close, but I forgot to tell you my husband got a raise, or I've been meaning to tell you about the Schwab account that I have had for a long time, and I just don't know what to do with it. Because they end up seeing the report that represents them and their family, and they want to tell you everything that makes it accurate. We called it the name and lights back when I worked at eMoney. So you're seeing yourself, you're seeing your family and everything that's important to you, and it's just kind of making you realize that the most, kind of collective and holistic view is going to do best for the situation with you and your advisor. So not only are you doing better due diligence with your clients, you're getting great KYC, but you're also uncovering opportunities for yourself and making it a more valuable conversation. We're going to give you tools to go ahead and gather data, whether it be from a client or prospect, right there on their phone. So you can imagine, send a client or prospect a quick link and ask them to tell you a little bit more about themselves leading up to a meeting. That way you can review it, see what they're all about, and ask some really pointed questions before you even get to know them really well. We're going to then, once we have great data in the system, whether it be through integrations like Nitrogen and Holistiplan, we're going to allow you to do some goal-based planning. We're going to go out and mine your book of business for opportunities on discussions you might want to have with your clients based on that great data that we know about them in the system. We are always innovating the platform. So we have had some, if you're new to Asset Map or if you haven't looked at us in a while, gosh, the last year or so, our product releases have been through the roof. From the Holistiplan integration to some kind of, I don't want to call it a family tree map, but someone did bring it up in the chat. Is there a way to kind of build a custom workflow, a custom family tree, or a custom kind of just overview of relationships that you have with folks in your life? So we've got some really great ways for you to really identify everything that's important for you to discuss and give you the ability to even, of course, white label it to your practice, make it really look like your firm, and have that important conversation with your client. So where are we popping up in most places? I would say, the great spots for Asset Map are definitely during that initial fact-finding process, whether you're using integrations or sending out that link to ask the client a little bit more about themselves. It's a really great way to get information to see if you all are a good fit to work together, get them to do some of the work for you, which is always nice, and get that Asset Map pre-built a bit for you to review before that first meeting, because it takes a long time to build that relationship. And what we hear a lot from advisors are, I really wish I could hit the ground running with them a little more quickly, as opposed to waiting for statements or, God forbid, having them fix up a bunch of logins, which can be time consuming and with security problems. Let's just get going right from the start and see if this is a great relationship fit. Another time that really works out nicely to pop up that Asset Map report that's going to give you that full visual of what's important to them in their financial life is during times of recommendation and advice. If you're going to ask a client to maybe make a change to their investments or move that old 401k over into a new IRA that's going to serve them better, being able to understand what's going on with that visualization tool is going to be hugely important for them to stay on track and, understand what you're suggesting that they do. And also during times of ongoing engagement, that's your semi-annual reviews, your annual reviews, whatever kind of time frame that you meet with your clients, pop that up, level set, see what's changed since the last time you met. And we're going to give you some good suggestions on that in just a couple of minutes when we jump into the tool and look at the integrations. Now, not only do we integrate with Holistiplan and Nitrogen, we've got a whole suite of integrations that can help you get data to work for you in the Asset Map system, because we really kind of see ourselves in this situation as a hub for that meeting, a hub to, meet with all of these important tools in one place when you have your clients in the office. We are never trying to be a tax planning software or an estate planning software or a risk planning software, but we're always going to partner with the best to go ahead and make sure that client is taken care of. So can you see my Asset Map screen, Tori? Okay,
Yep.
great. All right, we're going to hop into live app, and you know what that means. Anything could happen. So, we're taking a risk here, but I would be absolutely remiss to just stay in slides for the next 10 or 15 minutes before we take questions. This is the Asset Map platform. So when you log in, you can see I'm in a client called The Professors. This is one of my favorite clients to use in these different types of meetings. And you can do all that kinds of things in here. Reach out to our individual teams for all three of us if you need more detail on what actually happens within the platforms. You can do target map planning in here. You can look at, of course, balance sheets. Like I said, you can come in and see if there's opportunities for discussion that you could have between you and your client at a high level. You might be at risk for things like a long-term disability. Maybe you don't have any coverage. But to talk more about the integration specifically, as promised, it's super, super easy. If I go up to the top right-hand side where my picture is and I go down to integrations, you're going to see all the ones we have available. You're going to be able to see which ones are active. And of course, today I have Nitrogen and I have Holistiplan active and ready to use. To get that set up, you're just going to put in your username and password to that particular platform. And you're going to open up, like I say, normally this kind of pipeline of a way to grab data and pull it into Asset Map to save you time, to pre-populate the report, to offer you up insights that we wouldn't otherwise have in that meeting that are coming from our partners at these two companies. So what if I want to add a new integration? I am going to go back to my Professors. And we're going to jump back in, assuming that we have our, come on, load up. There we go. Assuming that we have our pipeline opened up and we can use it. I'm going to see the integrations for that particular household here pop up in a second. So for this client right now, I only have Holistiplan loaded up. And you can see it was synced an hour ago. That's when I was testing to make sure this would all work okay. So we're going to go ahead and enable Nitrogen for this particular client. And that's going to do a few things. It's going to pull in the investments that live in Nitrogen already for that client. So even when Brian said you have your AI statement loader, if you've loaded all of that up and now that lives in Nitrogen, whether it's come in through the client portal in Nitrogen, whether it's been entered in by the advisor through some kind of aggregation source or that AI uploader, it's going to then populate into the Asset Map report, saving you time, giving you updated values and that risk information. So let me search for Nick. I think that's who I'm looking for here. and search. It's going to find anything that matches Nick, anything that matches the last name. Never mind, it's Professor. Let's do it this way so I can show you something else. All right, here we go. So you can see, like that way we don't duplicate anything. I've got a few samples that I've loaded up for nitrogen for different presentations, different clients, but today I'm going to import Mr. Professor. I want to pull in any investments that match nitrogen for Nick in this case. So I'm going to choose that family member that's loaded up in Asset Map, and it's Nick, and I'm going to hit import. View would of course take you over to that other household so you could see what's going on with that particular person. Wouldn't want you ever to have to accidentally load up one client into another client's portfolio. So we're going to go ahead and import that now. As you can see, it only takes a couple seconds. It's going to initially give us that risk score for Mr. Professor right in the screen. And then if I jump back into their household, I am now going to have all of this beautiful information on the asset map report. And anything that came over from nitrogen, it will tell you it came from nitrogen. So it has nitrogen with a little star. It gave you the risk score for every single account. Now, if I told you that there are better kind of just visual integrations on the asset map report, I think I'd be lying, because you pop in here and you immediately know, okay, well, I see we have an emergency fund. That's probably just a basic checking or savings account. That is a very low risk, basically no risk. But we've got some other investments in here that are making up the aggregate up here for Nick in this case. And Brian, I always mess this up, so you can come off mute and say, we've got the target risk score, which is the 70, right? And then we've got the actual risk score, which is the 34. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the risk 70 would be the client's risk number. So they're comfortable going 70. We can say they're going there when you combine their four portfolios. So it's taking that risk number, it's looking at the weighting of that account's risk number, and it even will factor in like underneath in the account, it looks at diversification amongst the holdings in there.
Very
Um,
cool.
and there was a question that came in, and this kind of addresses it about
Sure.
like, let's say a client has an emergency fund. It's in your example there, it's 12,000. That's a risk one. And
Yep.
we want to say like, yeah, we have this stock portfolio that we're not going to touch for 15 years. We can take more risk with this one. And you can show the display that like, yeah, this is going to be like a risk 70 because we don't plan on using this bucket of money for the next 15 years. And
And
as
these are maybe all conversations that could come up when you're in the meeting in the asset map report, right, Brian? So that's a great example. So you're thinking to yourself, how would I be using this in practice? And it's exactly what happens. It's why Adam created asset map, was because popping this up is going to spur conversation. It's going to have that meeting with you and your client or you and your prospect just really explode in a great way, because they're going to be looking at this. You're going to be looking at this. And what we always say is, when you have everything in the asset map report, it gives the advisor the permission to ask appropriate questions to the client. They have helped you fill this out. They are able to see it with you. You're having a very open conversation, and you're not going to feel uncomfortable with saying something like Brian just said of, hey, you know what? We've got this nitrogen risk score coming in at a 1 for your emergency fund. I know you're not planning on touching that for a while. Let's have it work for you a little bit. And the beautiful thing about that is, if I jump into that emergency fund, and I am going to see the little nitrogen sign over here in my member modal, and I'm going to say, okay, we're talking about this, it's a risk 1. I can jump right into that portfolio in nitrogen and start working in there. Of course, I won't be logged in because that would make too much sense. But no, I was. It's going to take you right to Mr. Professor's accounts. So if you're in Asset Map and you uncover that there's something that you want to make an adjustment to on the nitrogen side, it's as simple as logging back in, clicking that button. I'm sorry, not logging back in, clicking that button and single signing right on into nitrogen and doing the work that you need to do in there, because we want to make it as seamless as possible. And, I got to say, these 3 systems are so client friendly that you really could, do a lot of this right on the fly with the client. And Brian, I'm sure you all see some of that work going on with advisors using nitrogen, correct?
Yeah, that is the beauty of single sign-on is you question pops up. We live in a world where when people have questions, they Google it and they get the answer right away. And so it's the same thing, right? Like they ask a question, you can say, "Oh, yeah, let me dive in and show you where we got that from."
That's right. And I couldn't agree more. I think the value of having the nitrogen. So let's recap what we learned. We learned that nitrogen is going to pre-populate the asset map with the investment. So I didn't have to come in here and type in Merrill, type in 210,000. I didn't have to do that. I don't have to worry about those values updating because they're going to do it for me through nitrogen. And getting that risk score, both the target and the current, right on the asset map report for that meeting, like I said, it's invaluable. We have advisors who are truly only using these two things together in their meetings every single day of the week. That's before we had the Holistiplan integration. So let's talk about that for a minute. I had mentioned to you that these three work together seamlessly, and you haven't seen that quite yet. Where we run into a problem sometimes when we have multiple integrations is, what if I have that Merrill account living somewhere else too, and I pull in another integration? That might get a little clunky. But what the nitrogen and Holistiplan integrations are doing respectively is now if I go into Nick's account in the middle, I'm going to see, well, we already talked a little bit about the risk and the nitrogen account loading into the asset map, and we've got our target and we've got our current portfolio. So they're only going 34 miles per hour when they say they want to be going 70, like Brian said. But what if I want to talk to them about taxes as well? I can see over on the left-hand side, I've got a tax expense listed that, both of them combined over $25,000 next year. That's definitely something that you want to talk ahead about, I would imagine. So I can jump into the Holistiplan integration, and I'm able to see right in the asset map report through single sign-on, through that last tax return that's been put into Holistiplan from the previous year, or whenever the most recent one you uploaded is, you're going to be able to see what's their total income. I've heard from advisors that some clients aren't even 100% sure the difference between their net and their gross. That sounds surprising to me, but hey, I've heard it all. What are their deductions? What's their taxable income? What is their marginal tax rate? And maybe some of my favorite, what did they pay last year in taxes? So you could see their total tax expense last year was $25,000. That's kind of where we estimated this number on each client and spouse, right? But wouldn't this be great to be able to reference in your next planning meeting, getting ready for 2025 tax season? I think it's a no-brainer. Tori, what would you add in here when it comes to these key tax figures that we're showing in the asset map report?
Yeah, I think too, our industry really highlights the tax benefits of your portfolios, but they're not actually talking about the real dollars and cents of
Mm.
what the client is paying. So that's what Holistiplan is tackling. It's the actual dollars and cents of what the client has been paid. Client can't make any investment opportunities if they don't understand how they're getting paid and what they're paying into taxes. So that key figure box really helps you understand where the client sat for the year. And it also can open up some really great conversations, right? That might then the filing status, right? The client listed that they filed married, but you know them to not be married. So how, are they actually filing this correctly? Making sure that the total income there is right. Being able to work through that, and then if you need to dive deeper, that little box underneath that says view record in Holistiplan takes you right to Holistiplan and allows you to see that full tax report. So you can go through the entire report and not just those key figures. So if you wanted to dive deeper and really break out their tax needs, that you've got the report right there.
It's funny if you're an advisor and you meet with your client for the first time since they got divorced and you find out from the tax return, that would really be, hey, you never know. It's probably
Yeah.
happened, Tori. You never know.
Oh yeah, more times than
Um,
you would guess.
So as we just saw, you're living in this asset map report. Let's say it's in your first meeting. Let's say it's in your seventh meeting. You meet every year. I've had conversations with advisors said, I've known this guy for 10 years and I never got the insight into what they have as clients until I got these three systems to work together and really give me the full picture, the full insight. Another benefit of just the integrations overall is they're super, super simple to refresh. So you can come in at any point and say, nitrogen was last synced 8 minutes ago. What if you haven't met in 9 months? This might say last synced 9 months ago. You could always jump into the asset map report, see where it looks originally, and then click this little button here. And in about 3 seconds, it will give you updated values. It'll pull in all those accounts that you have living in nitrogen that maybe weren't there 9 months ago. And it's seamless. It's doing that work for you. And it's keeping this up to date so that you're ready for your meetings in just a few minutes instead of sometimes hours with other systems. And there's one more thing that I love to highlight before we take some questions. And I know that Brian and Tori have been tackling some as we've been talking, is one of the only systems out there, and I've been at AssetMap, like I said, for almost 8 years, that is almost as valuable when it's not accurate than when it is AssetMap. And the reason for that is, think about it. You're the client, you're looking at this and you're like, well, yeah, my spouse is still a professor at Drexel, but Paula recently got a huge promotion. She's tenured now, and she's now making $150,000 a year. I can easily jump in there, update it. Everything changes behind the scenes for all your quick needs analysis planning, all your reporting. And this is going to spur on, like I said, those important conversations about things that you might not know otherwise. So I definitely like to bring that up because I think it's a fun fact. It's very rare that you get from all those items that we saw on the map in the beginning, a system that can actually value you a little bit when you are missing something, and it's asking those important questions. So I'm going to pull up our contact information while we chat about questions. Has anybody seen anything interesting that we should answer for the whole group?
Let's see. Bruce asked, can you choose which account nitrogen reports on? Alice, I know from our system, like if you mute the account in nitrogen, I don't think it'll pull through to Holistic or to AssetMap, but if it does pull in, is there a way to just quickly delete it from the map?
Yeah, you can delete very, very easily. Just click on the item and hit delete. If something comes over that you don't want there, it's private account or anything like that, deleting an asset map takes about 0.2 seconds. But I do believe, to Brian's point, that can be kind of held off from the start. See what else we got. And while we're talking about this, everyone, connect with us. Our teams would love to talk to you, tell you more about our software, do individual demos, hook you up with some discounts. So I know Holistiplan and AssetMap have some joint discounts that we would love to offer you. But go ahead, Brian, you have any more?
There's a couple that are in the similar question of where should we start with a prospect? I think I know, like, so if you want to start with the AI statement capture tool, like Allison mentioned, like you can start with nitrogen and that will feed into asset map. But I also know asset map's a really good discovery tool as well. And I think Holistiplan has some really good discovery tools on the tax side.
Yeah, we're doing that discovery not just off the portfolio data, we're just doing the actual discovery of the client's like true value dollars. And we have a really great, we didn't get quite to dive into it today, but being able to take our tax report and connect it into the nitrogen's IPS statement. So you're creating this really great overall IPS statement to deliver to your clients as they walk out the door, I think is really great too. Clients love to leave with something. So being able to kind of connect all three tools, they get to leave with a printout of their asset map, the tax report, and then the nitrogen IPS statement all in one like fail swoop, all branded for the advisor. So they, if the client needs to look back on it in a few months, it's all right there ready for them to see. The nice thing about tax data, it doesn't, unless the client has done an amendment, that data is not going to go too far out of date until the next return. So being able to know like you've got some clear, concise data in there already is really great as well.
That's awesome. I see a couple for AssetMap. So selfishly, I love Precise FP to AssetMap. It's super cool. Precise FP is a great platform. Obviously, it's extremely capable of doing a lot of different things. A lot of folks here, a lot of folks that use the Precise FP AssetMap integration are using that as a kind of bridge to get some e-money data into AssetMap. That's a great way to do that. Precise FP is awesome. I used to work for DocuPaste. They're a great company that now owns Precise FP, and they're making some waves on really being that data middleman to allow a lot of great features to push back and forth between different platforms. So yeah, Precise FP integration is very robust for sure.
And we have the same set up with Precise FP as well, being able to pull in, you kind of use them as your document storage center. And then we're able to pull if you have your tax returns stored there, we're able to pull them through. We've got great templates built out with them. Like I said, like Allison said, Precise FP really knows how to build integrations that really work for advisors.
100%. We were very excited to do that one a couple of years back.
Mhm.
Another question came in about, could we get, adult children put onto the asset map that are related to us financially? Of course. I have seen 3 rows of people and businesses on the asset map up at the top. So the purpose of that is you want anybody who matters to you financially to live in this report so that you can have the appropriate discussions about it. So the use case there is, okay, yeah, we understand what's going on with Paula, but Nick and Joanna, Joanna's Nick's mom, maybe you want to talk about them. You can check off and on anybody that you want to discuss at one time. And where this is really valuable is with adult children. Maybe it's a mixed family that you have, like, previous marriages with kids that are just, half siblings, and you just really have a complex situation. Not only can you do that on the asset map report, but we now have the capabilities through our relationships map. And I did build one to do kind of a custom family tree right in the asset map report. And you can actually check out the integrations in there as well, which is pretty cool. So this is a very new feature, but if you have complex estate situations that you would like to see how it's going to play out over generations, or a very complex household that has businesses and trusts and different setups there, you can set it up in a way that's extremely relatable to that client who's looking at your report. So this cool new report is new, just came out just a couple of months ago. And it's a great way to build, we've gotten that question all the time. Well, I love the asset map report, but it's very, it's set up the way it is on purpose so that it's something you can do over and over and again in a meeting. But if you would like to customize it and make it more of kind of an estate flow chart, you now have that capability right in the asset map system. And of course, it's going to pull from this original report. We have about 2 minutes left. Let's make sure we got all the questions. Anything else we missed, guys? And of course, you can always connect with us after as well.
There were a
I
couple
see some
questions
e-money
about
questions. AssetMap is hoping to integrate with e-money, maybe even this year. So no promises, but we are working on that.
I was going to say, Allison, Nitrogen does integrate very well with e-money. There's a bi-directional integration with them. So if you sync your accounts from e-money into Nitrogen, they're in Nitrogen now, and then we can push the Nitrogen accounts into AssetMap. So
Oh.
that way it would work. Like if you're using the aggregator in e-money, you're using it to collect data, pull that into Nitrogen. We will do the analysis of assigning the risk numbers, and then that would feed right into AssetMap. So you could do it that way.
Just for fun, I popped up our beneficiary report. And by the way, we're going to get a questions report after all of this. We had a lot of folks on this webinar. So I personally am planning on getting back to some additional folks that have written in. But we have a great beneficiary report, also visual, to say, hey, what are some of the situations that we have where we need to have some discussions about whether our clients have the correct beneficiary set up? That has been a game changer for some advisors using the system. So I know we have to wrap up. Any final words from you, Tori, and you, Brian?
No, just appreciate you guys all being here. We love all the questions. So like Allison said, we will get the questions wrapped up. If we didn't get to you, it's not because we forgot you, but we will get back to you guys about them.
Yes, I'm going to get these fine folks of the reports, and we'll make sure that we tackle everything you chatted in. Thank you so much for being so great with asking questions. And Brian, any final thoughts from you?
No, I appreciate all the questions that came in. Love to see the engagement there, and we'll definitely make sure we get all these answered in a follow-up.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here, and great talking to you, and see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.